West is definitely not a culture which should be inspired from.
They don't have any culture. Your eyes, your skin, your nose, your height, everything is from Prabhu Shri Ram. Okay, irrespective of what fancy dress you do. Familist, Family. Otherwise, they'll come with feminists.
Wow.
I don't want that.
We have seen the Massachusetts Institute declare that Newton copied the laws from Vaisheshika Shastra.
Men and women are different. That is why they are marrying. Although if they were equal, why would they marry? Certainly, Pakistan occupied Kashmir is something that we need to have. I mean, if I would want it before elections, because why will not I flaunt it if I've achieved it?
When you look at what goes into the minds of Amit Shah ji and Modi ji, it's really
They're
incredible.
visionaries.
Incredible. Movies are doing a lot of damage. News is doing a lot of damage.
Just look at the last 30 years, the serial content. They will show man has absolutely no role other than an ATM card. So Sanatan economics says, rest all the world is okay, what you need to fix is yourself. Abrahamic economics is saying you are okay, force everything else into your formula.
Sanatan Dharma is the way forward for the entire world.
It used to be university campuses inside the mandir campuses, and now you see in the university campus one small demo mandir. That's a chart of our downfall. 15th August 1947 was just a politically negotiated Independence Day. Now we are waiting for a civilizational Republic Day, and that will come when in the constitution document you replace the word secular with a dharmic.
Wow. Waiting for it. Namaskaram Ankit ji.
Namaskar.
You speak a lot about Sanatan economics. How is it different from Abrahamic economics?
Well, the concept of Sanatan economics is based on life cycles.
Okay.
Because dharma says that this is not the only life you got. So the difference between how ancient Bharat used to model its economics is contrast with the rest of the world. So the rest of the world thinks that you are the body and soul is just a vehicle. Bharat says you are the soul, body is just a vehicle. So all their economic models are based on one life concept. Now what happens when you think that this is the only life you got? Your focus becomes the material factor of production. From the four main factors of production, the Abrahamic economics focuses on the material factor of production, because they think that material is what is wealth, okay, which is finite, and they got one life. So they need to consume everything in this very life, which is they derived this debt based model that pass on the debt to the next generation, consume it right now, which is why you see their economic models, they make words like gun culture, war economy, right, because they link it with capturing as many resources as they can. And this also translates into geopolitics, where they say that we have made an exclusive group of democratic nations, and then this group is made against another group. Okay, so that's a mob based culture, mob based objective in geopolitics as well, wherein they force us and tell Bharat, you pick either of the two. And you know, our external minister confronting them, we are not going to join one exclusive group. So this is how Abrahamic economics comes about. Now when you talk about what it translates into on ground, job as an empowerment model has come just about the last 400 years. It came with the pound as a single country reserve currency status. So they glorified this thing where Britishers wanted to pack you into the four walls for 15 long years, essentially feminize men by testing memory. Memory has no role in the real market. Okay, so within that four walls for 15 years, the product that comes out is totally blank about the market. There's no scope of entrepreneurship, and what you have to end up is with a job. So where they consider man and women both as just a factor of production, they introduced this co-education concept in the British classroom. They didn't wanted colonials to question them, okay, for independence or things like that. So they just wanted slaves coming out so they can do human trafficking from classroom to jobs. And that is how that 18th century industrialization and all that concepts came. These are the concepts of Abrahamic economics, which is why today, as an outcome of that, because you base those models on one life, they have lost all the birth rates. They deployed women for shoring up the GDP temporarily in the fertile years, and they've lost the birth rates. The US has lost the birth rates, the EU has lost it, Japan has lost it, Russia has lost it. It's over. China has lost it. So this is what happens in Abrahamic economics. Similarly, when you look at the Middle East, that entire economics which is based on, again, material factor of production, that crude oil which is coming for free from the soil. Now that crude oil is going to have what, 10 to 15 years of importance with the UN climate goals and the SDG goals that we have, and even otherwise the way the countries are shifting and trying to find out innovations for alternatives of energy, what they are going to do next after the crude oil is gone. So this is what happens with the Abrahamic economic models. It's just designed for one life. They don't know what to do next. So in Europe, when they lost the birth rates, they have opened the borders, and you know what the outcome is. Now when we talk about Sanatan economics model, where we are being told that you never had any institution, for 1800 years, if you're giving on an average 27% GDP to the world, certainly we had an institution, and our institution was a mandir, which is why I keep talking about revival of the mandir ecosystem. Now this is just one part of Sanatan economics model. There's another part which is a family unit entrepreneurship model. There are 3 more. This will come in the next book. But when you just focus on the mandir ecosystem, you know that the entire cash flow is designed in a way that it marks with the tithis of the activities in the mandir, and that generates cash flow into the system, and that too in a celebratory format. So the cash is moving in a celebratory format from the rich people to the hands of the lower strata of the society. Now when you look at all the ancient Bharat activities, you will realize that right from each and every state activity, right from the birth of a new child or a marriage in the royal family, the entire procession will move from one mandir to the next mandir, and in that entire procession there will be grants being given by the king and the monarch. The entire concept of social welfare, where we say you won't be given any kind of freebies, but your body will be empowered with a prasad. Okay, so you are empowered with a prasad, that minimum food security is maintained, nobody feels entitled to take that prasad, and the money with which that prasad is given, the donor cannot even feel arrogant because he is depositing to the Lord. Okay, so this was the concept of social welfare. Now you compare that with the Abrahamic economics. The social welfare is you put a gun on the head of someone who's generating money, collect tax and give to the freebies crowd, and enlarge the role of the state. So there are contrasting difference in both the models over here.
You said it very beautifully when you actually, very sorry to come in the middle, when you said about the identity with the physical body, the difference between the other Abrahamic religions and Sanatan Dharma, we rooted in the sadhana and the spiritual ethos itself means the evolution is so brilliantly put here, and person is given an opportunity. There are methods to systematically evolve to a higher, deeper state.
You are working only on the man factor of production. So Sanatan economics says rest all the world is okay, what you need to fix is yourself. Okay, Abrahamic economics is saying you are okay, you just force everything else into your formula.
That is giving a top seat to arrogance.
Certainly, certainly, and there is no case of, because this falls into commandments method, the brain is designed in a fashion in Abrahamic countries that you cannot question anything for yourself. So the only thing you can question is others.
Yes, that is there, and we are such a brilliant generation. We are such a brilliant lot of people where questioning is allowed to any extent. Even gods were questioned.
Yes, yes.
And so they had time to answer everything. This comes from a clarity where anything can be answered and you can be given clarity.
Yes, one is a science of seeking and another is a belief systems. So the science of seeking is going to be the natural way how it used to be.
That is what even when Sadhguru says on world stage, whatever the human being is doing right now, machines are capable of doing. What is the difference between you and them? Machines are smart enough to calculate, remember things. They can remember more than a human being does. So what is the difference? The difference is how evolved you are, and how sensible and how compassionate a human being, and how much
They are
clarity you have.
equating now human beings with the machine, not just equating now, the machines are going to take over humans. So that is what is happening sadly in their society, where they do not have any sense of identity or origin or a pride or ancestral wisdom, any respect for that, because everything is hyper consumerized because of this one life consumption model. You got only one life, so now we are under panic to get everything just now, which is why you see puppet regime change. These are operations, right? Because they derived this war economy, because you do not understand how to earn money without damaging anyone else. So that is what happens with Abrahamic economics.
So is it fair enough to say India becoming the Vishwaguru will settle the world for peace?
Certainly, most certainly, because see, when we see, it is very unfortunate, because I see many of experts talking about the superpower status. It is very unfortunate that a civilization like ours need to borrow a concept from someone who's just born 500 years back. It's very unfortunate. Now, what's the difference between the concept of superpower and Vishwaguru? Superpower concept means that when your foreign minister is going to a country, you are flying bombers on the top and then negotiating.
Yes.
So it's basically domination, exploitation and imposition of policies and beliefs. The concept of Vishwaguru is totally opposite. The concept of Guru comes from the derivation that the one who takes you towards light from dark. Okay, now what does that mean? The disciple is coming to the Guru and saying, I want to learn something from you. This is Vishwaguru status. Okay, because I see a lot of experts who are aligned to the Western thought process making fun of the Vishwaguru status without even understanding what that is, because we are not calling for domination, exploitation of resources of others. We are saying that we will be at a point, at a stage where others will come to us asking what rectification they can make in their policies to achieve what we have achieved. So of course that status is far as yet, because that will be around 2047. That's what the target is. That's what the Prime Minister says.
But previously we were that power.
We always have been. So the problem is, I mean, I get this question that if we were so intelligent, why did we lose? If we were so great, why did we lose?
Prajam has brought up beautiful documentary Sahibs, where they have given a line of explanation in just 30 minutes of how this destruction happened, of losing it. I understood it is because we lost Gurukuls. You can have your point.
So losing the education format and the Mandir ecosystem, certainly a big part of it. But when they entered Bharat, I mean in different times of periods, the invasions, my understanding was that we were at an advanced stage of governance where we were governed by autonomous Janapadas. Now what happens when you are advanced and someone is an infant which is poor and coming with a brute force? Your defense was split. It was not consolidated at the center. This is what made the regional Janapadas compete with each other, and that is what they exploited. So the problem with us was we were at an advanced state of governance where we distributed the governance, even the defense. We were not centralized defense. Okay, they came with a centralized defense brute force, and their stomach was empty. That's the difference between the two.
Yes, and what they destroyed is not just Bharat, it is the world's wisdom.
Certainly, because this was the storehouse of wisdom, not just in terms of the mandir, what the mandir accumulated, but even in terms of the cultural conscience which the people had. They destroyed that as well, right? So it has been a big devastation, and we can simply chart the journey of this civilization towards the downfall. The way we see it used to be university campuses inside the mandir campuses, and now you see in the university campus one small demo mandir. That's the chart of our downfall.
The brilliant sages who are better than the scientists of the West. In fact, all the books were stolen from here and then it is getting rebound from the West. We have seen the Massachusetts Institute declare that Newton copied the laws from Vaisheshika Shastra. That brilliance is gone into caves now.
That's because, see, in Abrahamic economics, to be a scientist, you have to first be atheist. Because there is a belief systems where the science of seeking does not work. Now ours is a science of seeking. So we don't need to be atheist to be a scientist, right? Because all our rishis were scientists, right? So I think the revival of Mandir ecosystem is the path that we need to take. And 22nd January 2024, as I say, is our civilizational independence day. 15th August 1947 was just a politically negotiated Independence Day. Now we are waiting for a civilizational Republic Day, and that will come when in the constitution document you replace the word secular with a dharmic.
Wow. So waiting for it.
We are waiting for that civilizational Republic Day with lots of hopes on this government.
Ankitji, the US dollar hegemony constitutes a monopoly on a global stage. Today, Bharat is promoting its currency on a world stage. Can Indian rupee become an alternative to dollar in future?
Well, at this trajectory, what we are seeing in geopolitics, none of the four powers, Bharat, Russia, China or US, currently in a position to run the world with a single country reserve currency format. None of the four. Which means they will have to compromise to go to a model which is a multi-currency basket that leads a multipolar world. Now what happens with the Bharatiya rupee is, it certainly has good features as a savings currency, but we do not have the size of the manufacturing and the industrial heft that requires to back it up. I mean, we are on this process of building that. We haven't reached that stage. So single country reserve currency format is not the way. I mean, the world, all the victims have gathered in BRICS Plus. Yes. So these are all the victims of that single country reserve currency format. So they are not okay with that unipolar world, which is why they have gathered. Okay. Now when China pushes BRICS Plus, what does that mean is they tried yuan for 3 long years. It did not work. It's laughable, which is why they are also giving up that vision of a unipolar world. They are also pushing BRICS, which means whatever the new format comes, it's going to be a multi-currency basket, how the international trade need to be governed. Now what happened with that unipolar world was, as our EM rightly says, that there was a concentration of manufacturing at one place and concentration of printing of currency at one place. Now what we are looking at through this decade is China plus 10 in manufacturing. We are looking at US dollar plus 10 in currencies, and similarly the defense will also have to be China, Russia, US, India and 6 more countries doing their own research for defense and taking that shoulder of security of the trade routes. So this is where the world is heading towards. So I don't see a single country format coming up, at least for the next 2 decades.
So Ankitji, in 22, Raghuram Rajan, while talking about Rahul Gandhi, predicted that India would be lucky to achieve 5% growth in GDP, but the reality is totally different. We have surpassed expectations with a robust 8.3 growth in Q3, beating all major economies. What would you like to say about this fake analysis and spreading lies?
See, all the Western economists and those come with that Western template are into hiding. Now this guy, he just keeps on playing with Rahul Gandhi, and I mean even both of them discussing economics is like butter discussing with butterfly, something like that. So it's just nonsense. And he comes from that thought process of that Western single country reserve currency, where they have this privilege of printing endless currency. The other day there was a news, Apple wasted $10 billion in one project. Now, just tell me if an Indian business can waste $10 billion.
Even a simple rocket going wrong is being complained. We cannot afford.
Because we do not have that endless printing machine. So, because that privilege, they were able to do all this kind of innovation. Because when you distribute money for 1%, 2% rates, obviously you will have innovation coming out. No surprise about it. So they exploited that reserve currency status, based on which they got this Google, YouTube, Twitter, Microsoft, stuff like that. Now, once we go into a multipolar, multi-currency world, we already have the foreign minister talking in this interim budget saying 1 lakh crore corpus at a very low rate of interest for 50 years.
Corpus of 1 lakh crore rupees will be established with 50-year interest-free loan.
So I think we are going in that direction where now the innovation will come up, where students will be able to fetch loans at lower rate of interest, and they would be able to do that kind of innovation. In terms of GDP, first of all, both the indexes I have debunked long back. One is a per capita index, because even if the entire wealth is with one person, the per capita of the country number will come the same. Okay, so it has absolutely no ramification whatsoever when we discuss that as an index. And they'll always quote you this, saying that, oh, your per capita is so low. But this is a family unit economics model, where we consolidate incomes and the per member expenditure comes to be minimum. And we are not a hyper consumption model either. Okay, so this index doesn't work. Second is the GDP formula, which also came with that Bretton Woods of 1945 after the imposition of the dollar. So the GDP index also is designed in a way, because they had the printing machine. Say for tomorrow, the entire US economy, nobody works anything. Still the GDP will go up because they can just print it. Now, because in the formula, they have added consumption plus investment. One is a revenue item, other is a capital item. Now, a 10th class kid can tell you that revenue cannot be added to capital to measure performance of a particular period. But since they had this privilege, they kept on shoring up their GDP. Now, the problem is their printing machine is towards its final journey, and we, as we have the most productive population in the world, our GDP numbers are going up.
Yeah, and doesn't matter how much you progress, the opposition always have complaints, and people who have limited knowledge.
They do not have any vision. Have you heard of any vision for Bharat from them?
Nothing. Only how to collapse and destroy.
Their simple formula is, if at all they win a state, their formula is bankrupt the state. That's the standard formula they are applying.
Karnataka, Telangana, the living examples. Telangana is little better, but Karnataka is gone for a toss.
Totally gone as soon as they came.
Development takes the back seat in Karnataka as the Congress government prioritizes the use of state funds to fulfill its election freebie promises.
Remember, Siddharamaiah government had announced massive government schemes ahead of elections in Karnataka. Now, we are being told that there is a massive fund crunch.
And people fashionably complain about the inflation. Doesn't matter how much you grow, inflation is increasing. And they complain about onion, potato prices. Could you please throw some light on it?
See, understand one thing, that the rest of the world's inflation is a lot of portion of the lifestyle expenses which is being shifted from the West to us. Okay? And the portion of inflation that we have is also based on the kind of capital intensive projects that you go for. Now, we never had this kind of trains. Did we have before? Do we have these numbers of airports, the number of IITs, the number of IIMs that are coming up? So if you want that kind of infrastructure, I mean, if you look at the airports, the way the people are earning money, we need that capital expansion. So if you are doing those kind of capital intensive projects, you are going to have a little bit of more inflation. That's very natural. I mean, you can again go back to those worst trains if you wish to. If you vote them, they will bring that. The opposition party.
That is linked with the lifestyle, and people should be fair enough to adapt to the new dharmic lifestyles.
Correct.
When the nation is equally progressing and then people complain that this is Hindu centric, others cannot stay. Like Ambedkar ji said in the past itself that Hindus and Muslims cannot coexist. The partition was not done properly, and we are still seeing the beating. Let's not get into the controversial aspects of it. So Ankit ji, Modi ji introduced the concept of wed in India. So what are your thoughts on marriage economics in our country?
See, understand, I'll take both parts of it. One is the Nita Ambani Cultural Center. The moment that was inaugurated, you got to understand it was established at the doorsteps of the US consulate. Now, since with the financial reset, a lot of Western companies are going to pour in with their wealth and the companies shifting their operations here. This was a symbolism that if you are going to do extreme earth over here, then dharma is ready to at the gate, yes, as a gatekeeper here. Yeah. Okay. Now that was a symbolism. Besides that, I certainly believe people like Sadhguru, people like Nita Ambani ji, people like Shri Ramdev Baba, I think these are the biggest geoeconomics assets of the nation. Yeah. And when you see this family turning up as an elite in any occasion, you will see all the family members along. You will not find any kind of elite Western kind of a misbehavior with anybody. So when your elite represents dharma, I'm not saying I know them personally or whether they are into dharma or how much they are. I'm saying what they are portraying on screen. And it is very important what you show on screen, because when you portray that with wealth, this is how we live life, along with that, then that is the messaging which goes to the global powers which run the Abrahamic economics format, where the way they run their companies, they'll just call one Zoom call and fire 20,000 people. Yeah. This is their culture. So when they see our elite operate like this, then this is the Sanatan economics messaging that you are sending out to the world. Now we also need to understand, when the Prime Minister gave that call of wed in India, now a lot of destination wedding expenses which families, elite families been doing is just passing on our money outside. Yeah. Right? So a big chunk of also money going in terms of admissions to the Western university campuses and all. A huge chunk of money. Yeah. Without any credible output coming out of it. So if we are able to stop this draining of money outside Bharat, then a big money of this can be plowed back into the system in our economy itself, into our own people, right? So and in any case, we are seeing the Western education campuses collapsing. Around September, I had predicted that Indian students will be killed, and you see about 40 in the last 40 days, 6 are killed. So it's getting worse and worse over there because of the financial crisis, and they do not have any secularism concept. It's just on paper. As soon as the crisis will strike, they will just put it in the dustbin. Okay, so our parents need to understand this thing, because just last one season you had a rush of US visas especially from the south. So parents need to understand that the faster we take this next generation towards an entrepreneurship model, the faster will be the sustaining process of our economy, and the faster we will be able to have established a dharmic model of economics in the country.
There is a total misinterpretation of the spiritual gurus. People treat them, spirituality is about donating, living in poor, you can't ride on a bike, you can't wear certain clothes and all sorts of things. But Sadhguru changed the equation, and then it is important for people to look at the successful business models they have, rather than complaining that this is e-commerce and nonsense. Corporates are coming to seek advices. How do you run this? Right? In Isha Business Leadership, the top CEOs come and ask Sadhguru, we give salary to employees and they don't work like your volunteers. They don't even usher us like your volunteers. How do you do this? Then Sadhguru beautifully answered, we know that.
See, understand what is happening is, all our gurus, even in the ancient Bharat times, When you talk about individual liberation, that's a separate section of your spirituality. But our gurus also should have the responsibility of being the civilizational guru. You just can't be spiritual and say, I have nothing to do with this world. Let the world go to hell. Now, there are rishis who would like to do that, take that path. But then we as people of the country also need gurus who are civilizational gurus, who would point at us that these are the challenges you are facing. This should be the path of solution. Do the science of seeking on your own and take your own path. Because if we won't have gurus who are civilizational gurus, we'll again fall in the same pit. And we don't want that. So it is good to see that those who are into spiritual domain also take up a responsibility of the civilizational.
Ankit ji, in the past, we lost out to the invaders. Very bad phase. We have seen centuries of bad phase, and now we see Bharat is on world stage, progressing. And now, can Bharat provide new leadership to the world?
Well, the path to Vishwaguru is still far, but at this moment what we can do is the role of Vishwamitra, which the Prime Minister says. So what Bharat can do for you is the positioning right now. Okay? Until we reach that economic throne where we can claim that you can come and ask for the guidance. At this moment, what Bharat can do for you is the position. So let me give an example. See, in the concept of deradicalization, everyone understands that the concept of a convert. Now, your eyes, your skin, your nose, your height, everything is from Prabhu Shri Ram. Okay, irrespective of what fancy dress you do, whether you wear the Arabic clothing or you put up some fancy name of some other country, doesn't matter. Okay, the mirror is clearly showing that you got everything from Prabhu Shri Ram. Now, in this concept of deradicalization, I think Bharat can have a very big role in Europe, because what I'm seeing is Europe moving towards a path of crusades. Because the way they have invited young radicals from the Middle East, choicest, so to speak, there is going to be a big clash. Now, I think Bharat can give a middle path where we say that look, our Mandir, Ayurveda and Yoga can really help you deradicalize, like we are helping the Middle East with the same things. So that is the leadership which Bharat can provide in that region. Now, in terms of deradicalization, we also got to understand how radicalization happened. It has a very clear chronology. It operates in the formula of 90 plus 5 plus 5. There are 5% terrorists whom I say are the most respectable Muslims in the community. The next 5% are the clerics who indoctrinate hate at those specific religious venues. They teach and poison their minds at a young age to do blanket separation between believers and non-believers. These 5% clerics and celebs who give cover fire after the terror attack, saying, no, this is not what we taught, or this is not what is real religion. The next 90% are the most dangerous ones. Okay? Because after a terror attack, these 90 are the ones who take over the properties in panic selling after you leave the area. This is how they made 56 countries, 57. Okay? So there's a clear chronology. So the terrorists, that 5% terrorists, are being used by this 90%, because if you catch them and ask them why did they do that, they are very clearly saying, they are not lying. They are saying that we are working for Islam, there should be only Islam, no one else. So they are not lying, they are truthful, they are honest. So the 90% are using this 5% to grab, again as I said, Abrahamic economics, because they think ready wealth is wealth, that material is wealth. Okay, so there's a clear chronology. First those 5% would do the terror attack, the next 5% will give cover fire saying this is not what is real. There are so many good Muslims, the 90% are good. The 90% are the ones who after the terror attack, you panic sell those properties and they are going to take it over. So this is what happens. Say for example, if I am to give you what happened in the Middle East, how they turned Islamic. Say there's a lane of 10 shops. The first shop will be bought at premium. They'll buy the first shop in premium. They'll buy a second shop. After 6 months, those incidents will begin. Those kind of problematic incidents, cutting a cow and that kind of stuff. Some random stabbing, heckling and stuff like that. Remaining 8 shops they are going to get for free. This is how they built 57 nations. Okay. So the 5% terrorists are as much innocent as the victims who get killed. Okay. Which means that if you want to devise a de-radicalization model, because this argument will come when you say that I'm going to spend some money so that they have modern education. This argument will come कि वो terrorist तो doctor भी था, doctor भी था, तो पढ़ाई करके नहीं हो रहा है. That's not the solution. But you got to understand that 90 plus 5 plus 5, all three will require separate policies. You can't have a blanket policy for the entire community. Now, a lot of converts that we have in this country, my only request to them or expectation is just begin respecting your parents. That's all I'm asking, the Hindu ancestry that you had. So, because they are the real victims of the ancient terrorism which happened with them, that they got converted in some generation. So, my understanding is begin that process of healing by discussing within family what happened that in those days, in that generation, and eventually you can start quitting the fancy dress you have adopted from some desert region, because we have desert regions here, but they are even more colorful than, they wear much more colorful clothes than this. Okay, so Middle East is taking that path. I predicted around, I think 6th of Feb something, that only a dash of color in the clothes as a part of de-radicalization can become economies of scale for the kingdom. So I think by 16th we got their official handle started putting children, small girls with colorful clothes. So we got to understand that Middle East themselves are also trying to dig out their roots, what their connectivity with the Bharatiya Upmahadvip was. So this is the kind of leadership which Bharat can give.
Yes, yes. That is a wonderful transformation. In addition to that 90 plus 5 plus 5, I would like to add one thing about the refugees. When a war happens, it leaves a lot of refugees, thousands and thousands of them. They migrate to countries, and because of the pity and looking at their condition, we invite them. Then they start the actual work.
That's what the concept of secularism is. Secularism means you invite refugees and turn the natives into refugees.
Yeah.
That's what the definition of secularism is. Right? We do not have this concept. Understand? Secularism came from those Western countries because their clerics were meddling with the state affairs. And why their clerics were meddling with the state affairs? Because the political thoughts are in the mob objectives of the commandments. Okay. So their clerics continuously meddled with the kings in their daily affairs, which is why they brought up this concept of secularism, saying state and religion separate. Now, what that translated into the Western countries today, they have debate about kosher and halal both need to be banned. They want to separate state from the religion. This is their version of secularism. The secularism that happened in Bharat is totally opposite. Here they are saying accept everything, whatever they do, without even assessing it. Okay, so kosher bhi chalega, halal bhi chalega, and whatever the mess they want to cut a cow, allow it. Okay, so there is a fundamental difference. In fact, even their version of secularism now they want to revisit. Okay, the one which we have was already wrong in any case. So my understanding is that until in the constitution document, it needs to be revised from the beginning. The very first article, India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states, which is where they bring the north-south divide. Because when you say a state, okay, this needs to be revised to Bharat, that is Bharatvarsh, shall be a union of Janapadas. Because when you say Janapada, what that means is where the foot of my citizen is. In this case, you can no more do the north-south divide. You can't do I am a Christian, or I have Tamil language, I have a Gujarati language. You can't do all of these, because you are saying wherever my citizen puts his foot. Okay, which is why the word states need to be replaced with Janapadas. Now also in the preamble, socialist, secular, democratic needs to be, according to me, replaced with dharmic, familist, humanist.
Is it happening?
I do not know, but this is, I'm suggesting that this is how it should be. Familist, F-A-M-I-L-Y. Otherwise they'll come with feminists.
Wow.
I don't want that.
I think the government should take this into consideration. This is a beautiful.
I'm very sure that they do understand the damage that socialist, secular and democratic has caused. Even if you see the election method, okay, this is the method of Christian missionary. कि तुम्हारी life में problem है और हम solve करने वाले हैं. That is how they brought about. Now when they imposed this, saying it as democracy all across the world, okay, they said that they had no idea that there will be another Abrahamic faith who will breed like numbers. They thought Christian will make a block and you would win the elections. But that's not what happened. You got another Abrahamic faith breeding like crazy. Okay, so now they are revisiting their concepts, and I would not be surprised, because see, when Europe goes to these crusades, I am more than sure they will have to do Balika Vadu. I am more than sure about it, because these grooming gangs are going to torture those daughters, right? And that is a point in time when I am going to tell them how orthodox you are. Right? Because that is what they told us when we saved ourselves with Balika Vadu. Half of the country today does not know that they are surviving because of Balika Vadu. Instead of being grateful to the ancestors for that supreme sacrifices which that small daughter went through just for the survival of the Hindu population. That is exactly where this attraction for the male child came, because you need to fight with those grooming gangs outside your home. Right? Nobody is going to tell you that. There was a whole serial on Balika Vadu where they showed everything negative what happens with that daughter for doing Balika Vadu. Why didn't they show the cause? Do they have the guts to show the cause?
Movies are doing a lot of damage. News is doing a lot of damage.
Just look at the last 30 years, the serial content. They will show man has absolutely no role other than an ATM card. That is what their understanding is. Now you do not understand, when the father is going to lose respect at home and is not going to participate in the fathering process, you are going to get a next generation full of criminals. Because you do not study what the second order and third order effect in the next generation because of this. You come up with this fancy things that men and women are equal, which comes from there. Okay, so men and women are different, that is why they are marrying. Although if they were equal, why would they marry? Okay, so this concept of dividing people, destroying families, this comes from Abrahamic stuff, because they are telling their parents in the West, throw the kids out by the age of 16. They have the printing machine, the students take 1%, 2% loans and leave. And the parents are being told, instead of them, the state will take care of your retirement benefit, social benefit, Medicare and things like that. Throw them out. Okay, this is how they destroyed their family as an institution. Just look at how gender indoctrination is moving all across the West, because they are simply destroying the families with this.
And the amount of suicides, not knowing what to do in the end.
Certainly, because the understanding of self-control comes from the rough housing that you do with your father at an early age. Now fathers who are absent, fathers who are not respected, and fathers who do not know what their fathering role is because of this serial's content, the child will turn up into crimes. And data shows it. At least in the US, the data clearly shows that these are the single parent childhood that they have went through, coming out as criminals. Okay. Now if you do not understand that self-control for the male child comes at what point he's supposed to stop aggression, that comes from rough housing with the father. Similarly, for the girl child, when she needs to take the situation in her control, comes with that self-control which she had with her father. Okay, the mother might shout for 2-3 hours on the kid is not going to learn self-control because it doesn't come from her, frankly speaking. Okay, so it is very important to understand the role of a father in the family, and the serials are making a big damage when they show this kind of stuff.
Yes, that is one thing. Another thing is, West is definitely not a culture which should be inspired from.
They don't have any culture.
Not praising a lot about Sanatan Dharma, but Sanatan Dharma is the way forward for the entire world.
The concept of marriage itself talks about duties. All the feras, there's nothing about the rights. It only talks duties.
Ankitji, today we have seen a temple is being built in the Islamic country, UAE. People are increasingly turning towards Sanatan Dharma. So when we look at the future of Sanatan Dharma and Sanatanis, so do you see Sanatan Dharma will take over the role of guiding the world?
Certainly, because all other models, since they have devised for one life format, one life is all that they got. Okay, so when radicals are telling the Europeans that you don't have any children, we are coming after you as soon as we have the numbers. So you got to understand that all the models that are collapsing, the people have only ray of light coming from Sanatan. So I would not be surprised if in a few years you find the Prime Minister doing Pran Pratishtha even in Saudi Arabia. I'll not be surprised at all, because understand, these are Chandravanshi people, and I've clearly put out some of the signals where the Kaaba and Somnath comes in the same line and length. Similarly, the Temple Mount of Israel and Kedarnath comes in the same line and length. Now, I'm not a historian, but I'm saying we should push this research to find out what's the connect, because the last month as we went to Israel, a Jewish expert told us that it was through the Silk Route across Saudi Arabia, all the incense sticks were coming from Bharat for doing puja at the Temple Mount. They told us, and the Jewish Bible has those names of incense sticks in Sanskrit mentioned over there. Okay, so we got to understand that these MOUs which the Prime Minister has concluded with UAE and Saudi Arabia for full access of national archives. This is the starting point. We should start beginning the research. I'm more than sure you will have mandirs coming up. The ancients will rise.
Fantastic. Ankitji, we talked about many things, the GDP, reviving temples, Sanatan economics and all sorts of things. The government to function better in the future, what the government should prioritize. Like Sadhguru was saying, the most important priority is the new government should be to hand over the administration of Hindu temples to devotees. So, should Hindus have the first right on temples? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, do understand, there was an era where we had the threat of invasions, where mandirs were being destroyed. Okay, at that point, there were people who that panic created a lot of protectionism. That we need to protect the deity, we need to protect this premises. There were people who died. There were people who took the deity to their home just to save it. Okay, now that era of protectionism is over, right? You have the strongest Vigraha now standing in Ayodhya, the strongest Vigraha of the world. Okay, and that has geopolitical waves as well as we speak. So Ayodhya as a central node, with a seamless connectivity of mandir ecosystem from Saudi Arabia this side to Laos, Cambodia on the other side. This is what I look at it in the future. Okay, now there were questions about what if other people enter the premises, should that be allowed? There are questions, and there are some genuine reasons, like people who would damage it, defile it, some treating it as some tourist spot. Okay, at least not the central, that Sanctum Sanctorum is certainly not a tourist spot. Okay, now there are these genuine concerns, and then there are mandirs which that came up in UAE where Muslims are going to enter, right? Tomorrow if Iraq builds a mandir, obviously the Muslims are going to enter. Okay, so I think we need to come out as a civilization from this protectionist thought that others cannot enter, because dharma is for everyone. Now, you do need to put those controls, as you rightly pointed out, there are these concerns. So there can be a process of what we call as dharma arambha. Okay, you can put up in the periphery where whatever the deity requires, or whatever the clothing required, or whatever the rules are, those are explained so that whoever enters comes with that energy of embracing whatever the benefits are of the darshan. Okay, because these people talk about blindly following the commandments, we talk about darshan, blind and darshan. You can see, right, the difference between the two models. Okay, so certainly a priority for the government to loosen out the control, but I think it's also about how the states are handling it, because many of the states want money out of it.
Exactly.
Okay, exploitation, and put it to secular usage.
Yes, that is the center of the problem that we are dealing with right now. When the temples are under devotees' control, the major problem is we do not have a proper Gurukul system where they produce this archakas and a trust system where the temple will function exactly the way it was in the ancient times. Right now we have a bunch of educated, the Western educated and job
no clue what they are doing.
Job going people. If you put it in their hands, it will be really difficult. With the current BJP government at the center, there should be a coalition.
I think a centralized body will be first required. First, you have to build a centralized body which will study the variations of the kind of mandirs that we have. Some might be different how they operate in the north, some might be different how they operate in the south, some might be different based on community wise, some might be different based on what the deity requires in that mandir. Okay, so I think one umbrella body is the first step. After you have that umbrella body, study the whole diversity of the dharma and sampradayas that we have. Okay, then I think you can decipher what part of regulation, if at all, should go in the state list, and what part of regulation, if at all, should go into the central list. Okay, and then the liberating process can begin, because if you do it haphazard or fast, there could be chaos in between. Okay, besides, I think when they revisit the constitution document, I think that is the point in time they can diversify the state list and central list as well. As you already know that the delimitation commission will come up with, might as well change borders of some states, because you have 888 seats now, and at least I think 600 to 700 will be where the expansion will be in the first stage, some of these seats being women reservation as well. So we as the people of the country, we have to give out this message to the people that we are the citizens of Bharat and not of the state. This is the first message that needs to go. And once this understanding comes that we have now massive geopolitical responsibilities for a larger region where countries are looking at us for guidance, you can't get into this, short-sighted approach of this is mine, this is theirs, this is the next state ka property hai, this and that. Okay, there will be new union territories coming up, there will be some border shifts happening, and the country should be ready for this.
Ankit ji, you perfectly predicted about Article 370, and yesterday PM Modi was shaking hands with Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif on becoming the PM. How do you see the India-Pak relationships? And make one more prediction about POK.
So I'll tell you, Pakistan as a country has two clear paths, either of the one they have to select. One is they continue with the radicalization process and they go on losing territories. And second path is they become completely subservient to Delhi for governance, taking guidance from Delhi about what to do. I believe a lot of scope is there for a mandir ecosystem with a sustained cash flow for Pakistan, be it Hinglaj Mata Mandir, or there are many ancient sites, because that was a part of where the civilization grew. Okay, so with a seamless inflow and outflow for the Bharatiya tourists and also the pilgrims, they can have a sustained cash flow where they no more need to beg for money outside. So a complete subservience to Bharat for policy making, and for that they first need to acknowledge that they failed with this experiment that they did. Okay, once that acknowledgement comes, I think there's a good chance that all the Indian partners, including Saudi Arabia and UAE, interested in investing money to revamp their education system for the de-radicalization process, because that is the money that they need. I think about 100 to 200 billion to completely revamp from carpet the entire education format, because those jihadis are coming up as graduates from those units. Okay, so that is the second path which they can take. And I think Pakistan, some of the elements of Pakistani establishment do understand that all other nations want it to beg money, except Bharat. Okay, and understand in the era where we are moving towards of a multipolar world order, there's a lot of uncharted territory coming in. If you want to look international, that might sound fashionable for some time, but those benefits will trickle down to you based on the moods of those who are now soon going to be the ex-powers. Okay, so there's a clear choice. You want to do internationalism, look fashionable, be dependent on them. They themselves are now becoming ex-powers. That's the reality. And the reality that for you is that India is your reality of the region. Okay,
and this is not just like what the media shows and the internet says. The serious religious heat that is going on between Pakistan and India, end of the day it is economics, and you can't get the country go bankrupt. People do not have food to eat. We have seen the crisis.
You keep losing territories. You move in that direction, you keep losing territories. Certainly Pakistan occupied Kashmir is something that we need to have. And I mean, if I would want it before elections, because why will not I flaunt it if I've achieved it, right? So I think it should happen as early as possible, because that will begin the process of, as I said, the converts need to start that healing process within their own family, start those discussions about how the names changed, which generation had become the victim of invaders, terrorism. Okay, that process will only begin if this experiment collapses.
Have you seen Article 370 movie?
Yeah.
Wow.
Lovely.
Wow, fantastic. Aditya Jamble, I think.
And the way they have planned, right? 370, how they plan. So this is typical, because I've been observing, I read human body language of leaders. So I've been observing their rule in Gujarat. So I do know that they don't work on the symptoms. They work on the roots. And when you work on the roots, you first decide the end point and then work back what needs to be done today. And in that process, there is a gap of where you have to have patience, because this allegation would come on you that this Shaheen Bagh people were sitting, you did nothing. Now it's very easy to send 500 troops and make them walk back to their home. You can work on the symptoms if you choose to, but that is patchwork solution. You want a permanent Ayurvedic kind of a solution, work on the root problem. So this government works on the root problem. As I said, if de-radicalization concludes in Saudi Arabia and UAE, there is not much that we will require to do here. I'm telling you.
A lot of great work has already done. They have taken a lot of beating. When I see the movie, I understand there is a great opportunity
to
short-term
pains.
Yeah, there is enormous opportunity to freak
As
out.
soon as they made government with PDP, people started bashing them, without understanding that it is important if you want a root cause solution. Similarly, people are now waiting for Bengal. They are why not action is happening? Why not action is happening? Action doesn't happen that way. First there has to be end point, and you have to work back all the steps, because you can't leave the state in chaos. Presidential rule डालना है, कल डाल देते हैं. What next? You know the next step, what will happen on ground with the Hindus after that presidential rule? Are you prepared for that? So you have to first decide the end point. Certainly I also understand that presidential rule is going to be the step 1. But step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all need to be calculated before we go for step 1, right? It will certainly come.
When you look at what goes into the minds of Amit Shah ji and Modi ji, it's really
They're
incredible.
visionaries.
Incredible. The amount of frustration that a man can go through is at peak level at that stage, but still the way they act so calm and
That is the dharmic bent of mind which
absolutely
keeps them going.
Absolutely. Only they can fix this Bharat, which has been totally ruined by Congress for the past 70 years.
And they would have, I am telling you, they would have date-wise plans till 2047, nothing to worry.
Wow, I'm so lucky. Ankit ji, India is set to become third largest economy. And how do you see the India-China relationships?
So, as I've been saying, Bharat-China relations will always be at peak when you give them a nice beating at LSE and they scream from their foreign ministry statements. That is the peak of Bharat-China relations. When they both act lovey-dovey, there is some problem underneath. Okay? So, eventually what I see is multipolar Asia is, as we know, a precondition for a multipolar world. So, China will have to digest this fact that you cannot have a unipolar world anymore. And if you want a multipolar world, then you have to dissect the sphere of influence between Bharat, China and Russia. Okay? Now, when you dissect this sphere of influence or whatever regional leadership, if you want to put up a better word, okay? When you dissect this, there are two important elements here of this entire decolonization process, which I say de-dollarization, decolonization, deradicalization, decommunism and demissionarization. All five will happen, goes parallel. So, in the process of decommunism, we are expecting two clear things. One is a reversal of 1965 cultural revolution, which means you will revive every single mandir within China, and then you put on display everything that had ancient Bharat linkage at a full public display. Okay? And another is a reversal of 1979. 1979 they had a deal with President Carter. Deng Xiaoping comes back, imposes single child policy. They become the manufacturing giant for the world. So we are saying reversal of 1979. You revive back all those festivals back. You are going to split manufacturing between Russia, Bharat and China. Not just you alone doing manufacturing.
Open up the Kailash route.
A lot of it. Once the mandirs are revived, it's a natural tangent that they have to open up that route. Okay. So I see that once these two reversals, we are able to at least see the starting signals, we can believe that a background is set for a genuine bilateral. Otherwise, why should I even sit with you? I do not have any background to even sit with you. I have many other nations to do important bilaterals with. Why should we do this drama anymore? And you got to understand that when you split the regional leadership, until Laos, Cambodia, we had Sanatan spread, which means that ancient Buddhism and all those dharmic which were linked to the Bharatiya Upmahadvip will be revived back. We are not saying we are going to have military expositions in that region, in the South China Sea. We are saying cultural ties are going to be revived and you are not going to come in the way. Okay? And the second one is the trade route, which is Chennai Vladivostok, that we want to revive. These are the two. We are not looking for any military adventurism over there, but these are the two which will happen around China. So you've got to be ready with that.
Fantastic. And in this regard, I think people have learned not to take seriously the opposition. At this point of stage, they are gone.
They are a gone case. They don't have any vision. All they talk is caste discrimination. I don't know where they come this Brahmin poisoning stuff. All suddenly happening with the Ram Mandir. You understand why it is happening, right? Because they know what is coming next with the Mandir ecosystem. They are scared, shit scared about that. So the magic of the civilizational independence date, 22nd January 2024, is that prior to that date, they were saying मंदिर से jobs थोड़ी आएगा. Post that date, there's not a single statement by anyone saying. Instead, they are saying Ayodhya will become this $1 trillion economy. That's the magic of that date.
Yes, we have seen what those institutes of charity have done. Teresa.
We all know. Rice bags.
So Ankit ji, World War I, World War II we have seen. Do you think with the current systems of countries positioning, do you see a World War III is going to come?
Well, if you use the word world war, what I construe is many nations going for a war, right? I don't see that kind of a thing. Anyways, if they want to do, understand, we have come out of that time of Chanakya, where in his mandala theory he says neighbor's neighbor is going to become your ally, neighbor is your enemy, right? He was not at a time when there was Abrahamic infusion in your society. So that mandala theory worked back then. Now we got to understand that with the globalized world, the dangers are sitting next to us within the geography. Okay, so we got to understand, why would you need a world war when you can spread a virus?
That is true.
So the Trojan horse has entered your geography. Okay, so you don't need a world war. You can do many other things without doing an actual war, right? So we need to be careful about those. But I do see these pockets reversing. Ukraine, Taiwan, POK, and what's going on between Israel and Iran. Because all these 4 pockets were artificially created just to keep pound and dollar as a single country reserve status going. All 4 were artificially created. So you see Europe standing at Russian borders, Russia standing at Chinese borders, Chinese standing at Indian borders, India standing at Pakistan borders, Pakistan standing at Afghanistan borders, Afghanistan standing at Iran borders, Iran standing at Iraq borders. So in this entire process of going with that single country reserve currency status, what I called in my book as 2 buckets theory, they created 2 buckets. One bucket of nation was given arms and dollars, second bucket of nation were given sanctions. So every nation was told कि तेरा बाजू वाला चोर है, your neighbor is a rogue country, we are going to sanction them, which means by default you have to go ahead with the US dollar. Okay, this is how the single country reserve currency format was designed between pound and US dollar 400 years. Now since you don't require dollar anymore in this de-dollarization process, the 4 artificial hotspots are now reversing. Okay, so Ukraine will be done, POK will be done, Taiwan will be done, and Israel-Iran conflict will also close. But it will happen, it's a conflict, right? Even for closing you will require a conflict, right? So this is how the single country reserve currency format shifts to now a multipolar order.
Yeah. Ankit ji, you have given a very great elaborate about the geopolitics and economics and stuff. For a common man to understand, to put it in simple terms, do you see 2024 and the future is going to be scintillating or dangerous?
Well, a mix of both. But for Bharat, it is going to be a certain progress for sure.
What are your thoughts on Annamalai and the future of Tamil Nadu?
So looking at the wave that I have observed, I see at least 3 to 5 seats.
Wow.
And it's big, it's not small.
Yes, of course. In a state like Tamil Nadu and the current situation, it's incredible.
Looking at the wave right now, because he's done massive work on ground, I believe 3 to 5 seats.
And in the next term, he's going to make it.
And that's a big voting percentage if you get those seats, right? Which is incredible.
So Ankit ji, whether they are NRIs or Westerners who give gyan to Bharat, these people who give cheap advices and speak bad about Modi ji are not getting the proper treatment before. But now, this recently we saw Nitasha Kaul being prevented from entering India. Has the time come that Bharat will no longer receive this criticism?
Certainly. And I've been giving these messages for quite some time, that NRIs, and because they come from this, once you shift out of Bharat, you are voting there. Now, what is your purpose advising here? Specifically, when you are clearly saying that you left Bharat because of reservation, corruption, XYZ problems. Now, this is the generation to whom you passed on that problem and the reforms have begun. Now, what purpose you have advising on the reform? When you left the country, when you were supposed to do that struggle, you didn't do that struggle, you chose those greener pastures for whatever reasons. Okay, we are not arguing why did you choose that, but we are saying things which you failed at, you want to advise us on. Okay, so we are not going to take that anymore. Second thing, when this Raghuram Rajan kind of people, this cabal, this entire Western narrative of indexes, and I think Jaishankarji clearly told that you were playing mind games with us with those indexes. Now understand, when they were playing this game of saying Hindu rate of growth and insulting us, why didn't the NRI stood up and said, we are the Hindu rate of growth, look at our performance? Did they say that? They didn't. Okay. Now do understand that these NRIs or even the Western people now, because they are not able to speak what they are supposed to speak and criticize their constituencies, they are waiting for those green cards for years, and the borders are open down there. Can they speak a word? 6 students got killed. Did they speak a word? No, not a single Twitter handle speaking about it. But they have all kinds of advisory for Bharat, reserved for Bharat only. So I think somewhere down the line, NRIs need to have this acknowledgement of the fact that they were successful not because they were intelligent, they were successful because they had the concept of handling finance from the Sanatan economics model, where we say that there is life cycle economics, which means you take care of your parents and you also take care for the savings so that you ensure next generation completes their education. Whereas the Western families, when they turn toward at the time of education, their 2-3 parents change. Okay, so you are successful not because some Abrahamic Western classroom taught you that you need to take care of parents and save money and also take care of the next generation. No Abrahamic classroom taught it. No Abrahamic friend circle taught them that. Sanatan brought that finance concept to them, which is why they were successful. So to say that this was brain drain, which is what the popular narrative is, tell those people this was dharma drain, the benefit of which those economies had. Don't tell me this was brain drain. Tell me this was dharma drain, the benefit those Western economies had of that kind of productivity.
Ankitji, we will conclude the session with a rapid fire round. Rapid fire doesn't mean one word answers, short answers. Yeah. So let's begin. When is India expected to get a permanent seat in UNSC?
Before 2030.
Wow. Predictions on India and US elections?
India election, it's very clear. I've said 350 seats, 350 plus. Before 2 years back only I said that. So that's very clear. US elections, I believe there will be a big crisis before that. So it can go either way.
Okay. The future of NRI Indian diaspora?
They have to come back. They'll be beaten.
What is the difference between the views of Abrahamic and Sanatan thought about life?
One is consumption, second is preservation.
Wow. Thoughts on religious conversion in Bharat versus Garvapsi?
Well, Garvapsi means that those children who had gone rogue, now their pockets are empty, they want to come back to the parents.
What is the difference between dharma and religion?
Dharma is about science of seeking. Religion is about belief systems for hyper consumption.
Ankitji, the definition of soul according to Sanatan Dharma?
One with consciousness.
So Ankitji, what would you like to say? Did I miss anything, or would you like to say something to the people who are watching our show?
Well, my message to the people who are watching this would be that stand with this government, because this is the only government who is able to give a non-corrupt governance, and a lot of these the credit goes to the family of the Prime Minister, I would give more credit to the family rather than the Prime Minister. Because wherever family is involved, there are good chances of getting compromised. Anybody. Because that's the emotional attachment that you have. The family is living a normal life without any connection with the Prime Minister, and that has enabled a corruption-free governance top to bottom across the country. So this entire credit goes to the virtues of the great mother of the Prime Minister, the parenting that they did, and the entire family. So each of us now, being the family, adopted family of the Prime Minister, it is our duty to go out and vote and ensure that we enable him to make 1000 years plan that he envisages for the Bharatiya Upmahadvip.
So the conclusion here is vote for BJP and Congress Mukt Bharat.
Certainly, that is what it translates into.
Yeah. Remember, the symbol is lotus.
Symbol is lotus, where the Devi sits.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ankit ji. Thank you so much for your time.
Dhanyavad.
Wonderful
Jai Shri Ram.
conversation. Jai Shri Ram.